الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه، اللهم صل على سيدنا أمهاتنا ومشايخنا وأصحاب الحقوق علينا، اللهم آمين. Today, inshallah, we're continuing our Tajweed sessions, and we are in the second session talking about Nun al-Sakina and al-Tanween. If you recall last time, we talked about Nun al-Sakina and Tanween. They have very similar ahkam. They have four main ahkam. Last time we only covered the first one, al-Idhar, which basically means you make the noon very clear. You hear the sifa wa al-dhat. You hear the noon itself, and you hear its character, which is this sound coming from the top of your nose, which scholars call al-ghunna, which we'll spend a lot of time on today. And just as a follow-up to the last time, one brother asked me the sign of the noon al-sakina. When it comes on a noon, you would know that there will be like a raqs al-ha. What does it imply? And then I went back and checked, and this is basically relates to how the Mus'haf was initially written. Initially, the Mus'haf in the first few days after Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in the first few 200 years, there were no nuqat, there were no dots on top of the haruf. So in order for the scholars to help others to know how to read the Quran and to apply the Tajweed rules, to make it very clear that this noon, its hukm al-izhar, a group of scholars used to denote it with a kha, which relates to the word khafif. Khafif means easy to read. And at that time, the scholars did not differentiate between the kha and the ha, so that's why it would always look like raqs al-kha or raqs al-ha. So that's the history of why you see like a head of a ha on top of the noon when the hukm is idhar. So that's the history. It comes from the word khafif because it's very easy to pronounce the noon with this izhar. And then they would write the kha similar to a ha without a dot. So that's the history of this ha. Is this clear? I don't think the brother who asked the question is here today, but inshallah this is good historical perspective on ilm rasm al-mushaf. So recap, last time we said the first hukm is al-idhar, which happens when the nun al-sakina or the tanween is followed by one of these huruf, which is called huruf al-halq, coming from the back of your mouth, which is ha, hamza, ha, kha, ayn, ghayn. Does everybody remember that? Does everybody remember how would it look like if it was a nun sakina? What would be on the top of the noon? If it was a nun sakina, what would be on top of the noon? If it is izhar, what would it be?
Umbrella.
Huh?
Umbrella.
I'm saying the nun sakina. That's a trick question. Huh?
Sukun.
Look at the board. Ra'sul ha. Here. We just talked about it. Right? If it is a tanween, how would it look like? Wow, let's say it's it's gonna be wow with an umbrella, or if it is fath, they will be exactly equal, exactly parallel, or if it is kasr, exactly equal and exactly parallel. These are some of the clues for how the idhar will be in the Mus'haf Madani. Okay? So today inshallah we'll finish the rest of the ahkam, and they are all very related. I'll start with the simplest one, which is al-aqlab. Aqlab in Arabic means to convert. Taqlib shay'an, to turn it upside down, convert it into something else. So what happens in the aqlab is basically the nun al-sakina or the tanween. If it is followed by a ba, harf al-ba, you convert it into a meme. You convert the nun al-sakina or tanween into a meme. And you make a ghunna of two harak. What is the ghunna? The ghunna, this is the sound that is actually a characteristic and a trait of the noon. And in case of iqlab, idgham and ikhfa, you make it very clear. How do you know that you're making the ghunna appropriately? If you're pronouncing it correctly and you're touching the tip of your nose, you should feel some vibration there. So al-iqlab basically happens when you have a nun al-sakina or tanween, and it is followed by a ba. This can happen we said with the nun al-sakina or the tanween, it can happen at the end, if the nun al-sakina is coming at the end of one word, or even if it is coming in the middle of the word. In both cases, if the nun al-sakina is followed by a ba, whether it's the end of a word or it's coming within in the middle of the word, you basically convert the noon into meme, and you make a ghunna with two haraka. So these are some examples of the noon. You would say mim ba'd. The meme is coming from that part of your mouth. Mim ba'd. There is no noon at all. You converted the noon completely into a meme using your lips. Here you would say wa bihum. I'm not saying an bihum. I'm not saying an. I'm saying The noon, when you actually pronounce it as a letter, inshallah we'll cover this in the future. The noon, when you're pronouncing it, has two components. Part of it is coming from your tongue, and the second part is coming from the tip of your nose. Here, you're converting it into a meme. So you're not doing anything with your tongue. You're just moving with your lips. So it's a mim ba'd, bihum. Now, if it is a tanween can only come at the end of a word. Remember that from last time? Tanween can only come at the end of a word. Now, the last letter of a word is having a tanween, and it is followed by a ba in the next word, then you apply the iqlab as well here. You convert it into a meme. What is your clue? Your clue in the case of noon was a meme that is written on top of the noon. Your clue in the case of a tanween coming at the end of one word is you will see a meme as well, replacing the second haraka that was supposedly there. So if this was not iqlab and the word was sami'un basir, what would you see on top of samia? Waw and waw, correct? Meaning it's tanween with a bum. In case of iqlab, your clue is one of these waws is replaced with what? With a meme. Same happens if it is tanween with fath or kasr. In case of fath, it was supposed to invert, like slided alifs, two alifs like this. In case of iqlab, you take one of them and you replace it with a meme. And the same goes with sukun. So here I will say sami'un basir. See? Meme, and I made the gunna for two haraka. Two haraka means you'll see the gunna because the gunna is very consistent, like something that we will repeat today multiple times and in the future as well. The gunna, the harakas, is basically the time taken to pronounce the gunna. How long will you make it? And the scholars usually said that the zaman, the time taken, is you basically count. So if I say haraktan, this means as if I'm counting 1, 2. So if I'm saying this correctly, I should say sami'un basir, sami'un basir. See, two harakas. Here I'll say jaza'an bima, and this shay'in basir. Noon is completely converted into a meme, and it is accompanied by a gunna that has two harakas. Is this clear, inshallah?
And there should be a bay before.
Huh?
There should be a bay.
No. The ahkam al-nun al-sakina and tanween, everything depends on the letter that comes after
that.
the nun al-sakina or tanween.
After the one base.
After the nun al-sakina or the tanween. So here, the noon was followed by a ba. So the letter that comes after. The letter that comes after. Here, the noon followed by a ba. Here, the tanween is followed by a ba. Right? For tanween, it can only come at the end of one word, whereas for nun al-sakina, it can come at the end of one word, like min ba'd, or it can come in the middle of a word, okay? And the same for idhar. This is consistent. Idhar, you will apply the idhar rule if the letter coming after the nun al-sakina or tanween is one of these 6 letters. Clear, inshallah? Any questions? Good. Now we'll get to the third hukm. So now we're done with the idhar, we're done with the iqlab. The third hukm is al-idgham. Idgham in Arabic means to merge something, merge two things together. Assimilate two things together. And that's exactly what happens in al-idgham. In al-idgham, you have a nun sakina or tanween. When it is followed by one of these letters, 6 letters, and we're gonna further split them. It's called yarmalun. Ya, ra, mim, lam, waw, noon. When that happens, the nun al-sakina and tanween is merged with this next letter. You merge it with it. And when you're merging it, depending on what the letter is, you can either make a gunna if it is ya, noon, mim, waw, or if it is lam or ra, you don't even make a gunna. Idgham is basically the noon, sakina, or the noon that's coming from the tanween, is completely eaten, completely engulfed in the next letter. It's perfectly, like it's basically completely disappears in the lam and the ra. Because remember, the noon has a that, there is a harf, and there is a character for it, which is the sound of gunna. That's an inherent trait of the noon. In idgham, you're merging it completely. To the point that in the lam and the ra, you don't hear the noon at all, and even the gunna is completely out. It's not there. That's what it means to do al-idgham, merging or assimilation. Right? In al-idgham, your emphasis, and that's going to be a very important differentiating factor from the next hukm, your emphasis is on the second letter, which is the letter coming after a nun sakina or a tanween. Your emphasis is on the second letter. That's where you spend most of your time. So let me give you an example. Let's say this is some examples of the huruf yanmu, where there is a nun sakina at the end of one word, and then it's followed by one of the huruf yanmu. Let's say, man ya'mal. Where did I spend my time? On the nun or on the ya? Man ya'mal. I made the ghunna, and I spent my emphasis, the two harakas there, on the ya. Lan nushrik. Lan nushrik. That's the emphasis on the second nun. Mimmal. Mimmal. You don't hear the nun. You only hear the ghunna on the second letter. That's why we say idgham. The nun has been completely merged and assimilated with the next letter. Min wali. Min wali. Again, where am I spending my time? On the waw. Now, if you have examples on the tanween, khayran yara on the ya, shay'in nukur on the nun. خير من شيء وكيل. Again, I'm spending my time and making the emphasis on the second letter. In the lam and the ra, you're merging the noon or the tanween with the lam or the ra, and there is not even a ghunna. The noon is almost completely gone. It's completely gone. So I say, fitnatan lahum. See this? Fitnatan lahum. My nose, if you touch your nose, it should not move at that point. Fitnatan lahum. There is no noon, there is no ghunna at all. Ghafurur rahim. Ghafurur rahim. No noon, no ghunna. Milladun. Milladun. Min rabbika. Min rabbika. See? No noon, no ghunna. The scholars say, ذهبت ذات الحرف وصفته. There is no noon existing, and its character or its trait, which is the ghunna, is completely gone. This is the hukm al-idgham. Remember, it can only come at the last letter of a word. The exception is, if it happens within the word, like we said, why am I saying akhir harf, the last letter of a word? If it happens within the same word, the rule does not apply. So let me give you an example. If we're saying sinwan, sinwan, qinwan. This is a nun sakina, right? And it's followed by a waw, right? Technically, it's part of this huruf. So I should make a ghunna, right? Right? No, you don't. The exception is, you only apply the idgham if the noon is sakina or at-tanween is coming at the end of a word. Because if you do it within the middle of the word, you'll change the word structure. It will sound like sewwa. No, that's a different word. Qewwa, that's a different word. Is this clear? Clear? Inshallah? Okay. So how many hukm have we finished? Idhar, iqlab, idgham. How many letters have we covered from the 28 letters? Go ahead.
For idhar and iqlab, other than the letters you gave us the clue in the mushaf, is there a clue here for the idgham?
Excellent question. What is the clue for the idgham? You mean the haraka?
Yes.
Yes, I'll get to it. Yes. But so how many letters have we covered so far? How many?
13.
1, 6, that's 7. 7 plus 6?
13.
13. How many we have left?
15.
15. صح. Before we move on, Nader alerted me to a very important thing. We had a clue for how the idhar is written in the mushaf. Remember how the nun sakina is written and the tanween is written? We had a clue for how the iqlab is written in the mushaf. That means, what is the clue for idgham? The clue is, if it is related to a nun sakina, the nun will have nothing on top of it. Nothing. Take this as a rule. Whenever you see a letter in the Quran, specifically the nun, that has no haraka on top of it, there is a hukm. There is a حكم تجويدي there. There is something there that you need to be alert to. So in idgham, if there is a noon and the حكم is there going to be idgham, you will see that the noon has nothing on top of it. If it is a tanween, your clue is, you remember how the tanweens were written for the idhar? Here it's different. Here, if it is tanween was done, where is it?
غفور الرحيم.
Yes, خير من. It was done, you will see two waws. People call it sometimes the 99. If it is tanween with kasr or fath, you will see sliding. They are not on top of each other, they are gliding over each other. They're sliding over each other. Remember last time when we said the idhar, they are exactly on top of each other, they are exactly equal. Here they will be gliding. They call it at-tatabu. It is as if one haraka is coming and the next one is coming after it. So I'll repeat. Your clue in the idgham, in the mushaf, if it is a noon, followed by one of the letters of the idgham, the noon will have nothing on top of it. Clear. No haraka. If it is tanween was done, you will see two waws. If it is tanween with fath or kasr, you will see them as sliding. One fatha followed by another fatha, or one kasra followed by another kasra. Another thing is, but I don't want to get into the details of that, especially for the lam and the ra, and the noon and the mim. The letter following them, if there is adgham, you will see a shadda on them. Lam and ra, there is a shadda. Noon and mim, there is a shadda. This will be very helpful when we get to ikhfa, because ikhfa, there is no shadda at all. Is this clear? Can we proceed to the next one? Go ahead.
Just a quick note.
Yes.
In Madani print,
Yes.
you will see the sliding or wow, but if someone has Usmani or different,
Oh yes, yes. That's why we always say in the beginning, bring a Madani print. Because the Madani print makes it much easier. A lot of the ahkam, you have a lot of clues in the way they are actually written. Right? Any? Say something? Okay. Now we're with the left of the rest of the haruf. 15 more harf, right? We have 1, 6, that's 7, 7 plus 6 is 13, minus 28 is what? 15. Now, if the noon is sakina or tanween is followed by any other letter other than these, or these, then the hukm is ikhfa. Ikhfa means hiding. Why did I put it here? Because al-ikhfa is a middle stage between idhar, fully pronouncing the letter, or idgham, fully merging it. Ikhfa is somewhere in the middle. In terms of emphasis, when you're reading the letter of ikhfa, the noon sakina or tanween is the hukm is ikhfa. Where was the emphasis here when you're reading? Was it on the noon sakina or tanween, or was it on the second letter? Where was the emphasis? On the second letter. Here your emphasis is on the noon itself, or the tanween itself. That's where you spend your time. And then you pronounce the next letter. So for instance, here, باقي الحروف, the other 50 letters, ريح صرصر. Where did I spend my time? In the tanween or the sad? Tanween or the sad? Okay, but if I say من يعمل, where did I spend my time?
Yeah.
On the ya. Okay, this is important differentiation. Why? Because the way the ikhfa is written in the mushaf, in terms of how the noon sakina and tanween look like, it is exactly the same as idgham. If it is a noon, the noon will have nothing on top of it. If it is tanween was done, it's going to be two waws with fath, sliding fath, kasr, sliding kasr. So, one of your first clues for knowing whether this is idgham or ikhfa is if you have memorized the 6 letters, well and good. If you see any of them, that's automatically idgham. If it's not idgham, then it's going to be ikhfa. Right? Because they are drawn the same way. Another clue is, after al-ikhfa, there is never a shadda. There is never a shadda on the second letter. Whereas in al-idgham, 4 out of the 6 letters have a shadda. This is related to another hukm. We don't want to go into details called idgham kamil or idgham naqis. We don't want to talk about it. But remember that this one, ikhfa, never has a shadda. Another differentiation is, if you see a noon in the middle of the word, Is it idgham or ikhfa? In the middle of the word. Idgham. If you see a noon that has no haraka on top of it, in the middle of the word, is it idgham or ikhfa? Ikhfa. Why? Because we said idgham can never come in the middle of the word. So that's another clue for knowing that this is an ikhfa. In general, those are the two most commonly recurring hukm in the Quran. Al-idgham and ikhfa. If you see a noon that has no haraka in the middle of a word, blindly, that's an ikhfa. You only need to start asking yourself and apply the rules in the letters if it is coming at the end of a word. Then you look, okay, what's the next letter? Is it one of Yarmalun? Then yes, it's an idgham. And then if that's the first stage of the decision tree, then is it yanmu? Then idgham is ghunna. I'm gonna use my nose. If it's lam or ra, then it is idgham without ghunna. A third clue is, if I look at the next letter, and it's not a shadda, if there is a shadda, then automatically it's an idgham. If there is no shadda, then that's another clue, it might be an ikhfa. Is this clear? Do I need to memorize those 15 letters? No. Why?
If you have 6 letters.
Exactly, by exclusion. This one is very distinct because of the way it's written. That shouldn't confuse you. This one is very distinct. It's only one letter and there is a meme. Those are the two things which are close to each other. And that's where you need to memorize the yarmalun. Ya, nun, mim, waw. So the letters and the shadda. Any questions? Go ahead.
Well, the also is like the holding in the nose is also less than the ghunna, correct? It's
No, there is a ghunna. There is still a ghunna.
It's lighter than the.
Slightly lighter. So actually, that's a good point. The sifat al-huruf al-ghunna, the ghunna which is a trait of the noon and the meme, it has multiple levels. Multiple levels of how long you give it time. You perfect it in al-idgham. Slightly less in al-ikhfa. But it's very difficult for us to basically monitor that difference. So that's why I didn't want to talk about this. But technically, both of these have ghunna. So does ikhfa have ghunna as well? I just said it, yes, it has ghunna. Yes, it has ghunna. It has ghunna. But what is the difference in the ghunna? Between this ghunna and that ghunna? Huh? Slight, yes. What's an easier differentiation? Your emphasis, your emphasis. Where do you spend most of your time? Where do you spend actually your time? Here, you spend it on the letter that comes after. And that's why you see actually a shadda in 4 out of the 6 letters. Shadda means it is 2 letters. You spend more time. And in ikhfa, you spend your time on the noon itself, or on the tanween itself. So I'd say, mansura, anfusakum, antum. These are very commonly recurring words in the Quran. All of these are, their hukm is ikhfa. Is this clear? Any questions? Okay, so let's split inshallah into how many?
Just a quick comment. Usually it is very natural when you want to differentiate between ikhfa and idgham, the ghunna. You can't really, like, if you are trying to make it like a masura, you cannot do it like that, right? Mansura, you cannot, like, even if you are trying to do that. The rule sometimes is explaining what we do, is not really forcing you to do something against your natural tongue. Again, for man ya'mal, we cannot make man ya'mal. You can't really get it.
It's more difficult. It's more difficult. Actually, ahkam al-tajweed, the Sahaba and the tabi'in and tabi'in, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't have to teach them tajweed because this was very close to how they actually pronounce the letters. This is much easier to say man ya'mal rather than say man ya'mal. Man ya'mal is easier, right? But because of al-ujma, most of the Arabs actually don't know how to speak Arabic. And then we started getting further from Arabic in the Quran. That's why the scholars have to go back and see how the Quran was read and then extract the rules to teach us how to pronounce correctly. But this was kind of a second nature to the Arabs at the Prophet's time, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's how they actually spoke most of the time, because it's easier on the tongue.
Ahmed, maybe one request. Now it's getting serious.
Yes.
Compared to last time,
Yes.
it was one hukm very clear. So I'm guessing some people will start to get intimidated. How I'm gonna memorize the letters, how I'm gonna apply as I read. Maybe a couple of tips or motivational statements on how to, because I know that over time you will just do it very naturally. You're not,
Yes.
not every time you open the Mus'haf you're gonna keep reminding yourself of the letters. So just
Yes.
a couple.
So, Jazakallah khair for doing this. First of all, like when you're learning something new, it's very natural to feel a bit taken aback or afraid that this is too much. That's very natural. That's very natural. Second, in Tajweed, like any applied science, 10 to 20% is what you see on the board. 80% is practice, right? Practice. Practice can take different ways. If you really want to learn Tajweed, then apply it correctly. You read well with whoever you're reading with today, inshallah, the masjid. That's one stage. Second stage is listening to Qurra. Dedicate 10 minutes a day, listening to Sheikh al-Husari or Sheikh al-Manshawi. I'd suggest the Sheikh al-Husari. He reads very slowly and he pronounces letter by letter. That's another way. The third method is record for yourself. That's what my Sheikh always tells me. I would tell him, I pronounced it correctly. He said, no, you did it wrong. You just need to record it for yourself. And then when you record it for yourself and you hear it again, you find, yes, I was wrong. And then a fourth thing is, we can move a bit slower. So maybe next time, my plan is whatever we learn, we will build on whatever we learned last time. So today, inshallah, we'll be applying these rules and this rule. By the end of the day, if you feel this is too much, maybe next time we don't learn anything new and we just dedicate it to fully, inshallah, perfecting these ahkam of Nun Sakina wa Tanween. Does this make sense? So today we'll apply, give you a week to listen more, read more, record yourself if you want to, and then next time, inshallah, we will not take any new hukm. We will just apply what we have learned today and go through some reading, so that next time you can read. If you're reading like 3 or 4 ayahs with your with whoever you're reading with, next time maybe you can read full page, 2 pages, whatever you want. Does this make sense? Does this address your? Go ahead.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Brother Ahmed? Yes, sometimes it can be intimidating, but if you spend after learning at home 2-3 days, 10-15 minutes, even I think your teaching style, mashallah, is excellent. And then what you learn, look for some surah, 1 ayah, 2 ayah, on your own. Spend within 2 weeks, you will not be intimidated. Even I've seen your approach with my kids, I'm bringing them here. Within 2 weeks, I forget that. But again, if you don't practice for 3-4 months,
Yes.
you will try. You will
Yeah,
get
this science is a very practical science. It's not like fiqh or aqidah where sometimes you get confronted with this hukm or whatnot, and then if not, you'll. No, this one is something. Technically, you should be reciting Quran on a daily basis, or listening to Quran on a daily basis, at least 1 or 2 pages. So that's part of the practice. 10 to 20% relies on the rules and remembering them, but what really cements them in your mind is the practice. You will see that most of our grandfathers and great-grandfathers, they didn't know any of these rules, but they applied them perfectly. Why? Because they are practicing them on a daily basis. So practice, practice, practice. And next time we'll stop, inshallah. Any final questions? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت